Welcome to turning a moment into a movement.
This little light of mine, I'm gon' let it shine. I'm gon' let it shine. This little light of mine, this little light of mine, I'm gon' let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gon' let it shine. I'm gon' let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gon' let it shine. I'm gon' let it shine. Oh Lord, just let it shine. This light of mine, this light of mine. Oh Lord, would you please just let it shine. Take the drama out of my life. Oh Lord, every night the pain ain't right. I wake up at night, I never sleep. 26, 10, and 7, that's just me. Every day I need a little seed. I need a little fresh air, man, I need to breathe. All I know is trauma, all I know is tickets. All I know is no visit, all I know is a mission to get straight up out of prison. Lord have mercy for it. Lord have mercy on my people. Preacher Mary Washington and all my real. Lord have mercy with my people. I pray to God, we really need you. When I was down bad, when things weren't going right, every time I prayed at night, I put my hands up in my face. I said, Lord have mercy, little light of mine. Lord God, please let it shine. It's the drama that I live in my life. I swear to God, I was a bad guy every night. 10 toes down, salute. Everybody suffering, everybody who trying to make a way. Everybody looking for the sky, everybody looking for that piece of pie. In a law library, I know what that feel like. Hoping that somebody get active and involved in your situation. Man, pop your collar and pray. Cause Lord have mercy on my soul. And they make bad guy father get out soon. And the rest of those brothers who be mobbing to child each morning. Oh man, I ain't going to this afternoon. Man, I'ma miss dinner today. I got a couple noodles. Hey, you know what that feel like? Do you know what it is? And if you a victim of a wrongful conviction, suffered and served by Ken Worthy, then I know that you know what that pain feel like. And your mama know what that pain feel like. Your father know what that pain feel like. With that light, let that little shine. Let that light shine, a little light of mine. Bad guy, Doughboy Week, all these great people in this great world of ours. 10 toes down, salute. I appreciate you, bad guy. I appreciate you, Week. I appreciate the tech. I appreciate everybody in the studio. We gonna pop off that LV. Ooh-wee. Cause that's what they be liking to see. But I hope you hear the missing when you see me fresh. Salute.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Turning a Moment into a Movement. I am your host, J Love, and I also represent the Justice for Gerard movement. Gerard is my son who was wrongfully convicted for a crime he didn't do, went to prison for that crime. And so, because of that journey with Gerard and all the people I met on that journey, we created this platform called Turning a Moment into a Movement, where we come here on Fridays to discuss wrongful convictions and injustices. So, and also to have community conversations. So, thank you for joining us. I am so honored by our guest that's joining us tonight, but also, this continuous conversation about freedom denied. So, before we get started, our mission here is to bring awareness to all that are impacted from being wrongly convicted, overly sentenced, mentally ill, and medically frail in our community, to inspire, organize, and educate all communities about the needs to disrupt systems, policies, and patterns of the criminal legal system that leads to wrongful convictions. So that's why we're here. Thank you for joining us again. And I want to just shout out people who are watching live on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, but also for those who watch later, subscribe to our channel, our YouTube channel, Turning a Moment into a Movement. And just once you do that, you'll be notified every time we go live. So thanks again. So I'm going to bring on the panel and then we're going to get started. Hey, Revatia.
Well, hello there. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I am very excited about tonight, our conversation this evening, and just excited to come. I am known for as the narrative transformer. So I like when we transform the narrative and when we notice what kind of narratives we've been following, what kind of lies have we been told. And so I'm excited, Jay, for us to have this conversation, coming to you from the Choice Zone and in all the many ways that I'm out in the community. And just looking forward to people continuing to have the conversation and to join the movement.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you, Revatia. Let's see. Hey, Gloria. Gloria was with us last week. So, hello,
Mhm.
Gloria. So, next, we want to bring on Leslie. Hey, Leslie.
Hello, hello.
How are you tonight?
Oh, I'm doing fine. I didn't have a voice for a couple days, and when
I
it
was
came
going to,
back, I think I done talked it back off. So
what?
I had to
I was
be.
going to ask you how you were feeling.
Yeah, I'm feeling better. Just this, just it's a climb. So, anyways, my name is Leslie McGraw, and I'm here. Um, I represent um family first. Hi, Miss Gloria. Represent family first, of course. So I cannot, I always think, I saw somebody say something recently about practicing future. So history ain't nothing but practicing for the future. And so 57 years ago today, we lost Martin Luther King Jr. down in Memphis, Tennessee. And 4 years prior to that, we lost Medgar Evers, so who was long time known as in the thick of things. And 23 years before that, we lost Albert Williams, who was doing the same kind of work. So we know a little bit more about each one because of their proximity to women, right? So um, Martin Luther King had all sorts of women around to help keep his legacy alive. Medgar Evers, of course, had Murley, and my uncle did not have the same amount to keep that story alive, but he was killed in the line of duty. And so it's just I've been thinking about that and how the stories are related. So we were practicing. We're back at this point where it's sort of like a Jim Crow time, and I feel like we've been given the practice test, the study quiz, we got all the study packets, and we still failing. So I'm sorry, I should be more positive. So so anyways, I just like looking to listen to and collaborate on ideas so we can get it right this time at our shot at freedom.
Yeah, you're
So
right.
thank you.
I'm just listening to everything that's going on, Leslie, and all the changes that's being made and just quickly being made. Yeah, we have to get it right this time. So yeah. But thank you for joining us tonight, Leslie.
Thank you for having me as always.
Trisha.
What up, Joe? Well, how are y'all fine ladies doing on the night?
How are you?
I'm blessed.
Yes.
I'm gonna say that like of course there's all kind of stuff going on, but I'm blessed, I'm grateful. There's nothing that can take me out. It might throw me off, but it won't take me out. I might cry a tear, but it won't take me out. right? I might hang my head for a hot second, but I'm going to raise it again and get back up and do what I got to do, right? And I think that's the nature of the movement. You know, you got to take your lickings and keep on ticking. So, you know, I'm just grateful because, you know, in those moments where I'm taking a licking, if I consider gratefulness eases the blow, right, for me. And so I'm so thankful for this space. Thank you, J Love, for the continuation of this platform to just uplift on wrongful convictions, Black liberation, or any other things that we want to talk about. And on tonight, I just want to uplift. I'll probably have my camera off tonight because I want you to see that we're not playing about the conditions in Women Huron Valley Prison. And we'll probably talk a little bit more about it on tonight. But I was talking to Valerie, and Valerie's, you know, a scientist. She used to work at Pfizer, and she said, you know, Crystal is suffering from black mold poisoning. And it just hit me like, man, you know, being poisoned from the inside out. And as a matter of fact, you know, on some, it's talked about all the symptoms that she has, same things. It talked about how the only way to really help clear it up was to remove her from the environment. So we declare right now that she shall be moved from that environment. We declare and we put it in the atmosphere and in this earth that she will be released on a medical clemency, or however they have to get her out of there so she could be healed and be made whole. So please join us. And I'm sure we're going to talk about it tonight. And Jay, I'm sorry, but I just got off the phone talking about this. It's on my heart, y'all. So prayers up for Crystal because she is wrongfully convicted. Prayers up for the Veazey brothers because they are wrongfully convicted. Prayers up for Tamira Washington because she is wrongfully convicted. Prayers up for Michael Lawson because he is wrongfully convicted. Prayers up for Andre Blunt because he is wrongfully convicted. Prayers up for Kenyon Clinton because he is wrongfully convicted. Prayers up for all those that are wrongfully convicted and their families. Thank you.
Yeah. I wanted to put the flyer up. I put it up while you were talking, Trisha. And we'll go back into it later on, but this is what Trisha is talking about on Wednesday, April the 16th, 2025, from 6 to 8 p.m. We're going to have a live, in-person community conversation at U of M regarding the conditions of Women's Huron Valley, featuring the Valley Prison, featuring the story of Crystal Clark and others who are suffering. So I just wanted to put that up there. Yes, Joyce, innocent lives matter. Yep.
My apologies. That flyer says Andy Wilson Jr., and that's my fault. It should say Andy Hood candidate Williams Jr.
Yes. Yes. So next, she's not a guest, she's family. Hi, Diane.
Hi, how you doing, Jay and Trisha and Tia and Leslie? I guess I haven't met you yet.
No, Leslie is new. You haven't met Leslie.
Okay.
Yes, welcome, Diane. We haven't seen you in a while.
Thank you. Yeah, it took me a minute. I was having some trouble with the camera, but it's on now. So.
Oh yeah, I saw you, but I was like, she's gonna make it.
You know me, I'm determined.
Hey, good evening, Fred. So next, we're gonna bring on, hopefully, my Detroit lawyer, she'll be dropping on soon because we got a lot to speak with her about as well. But our guest is here. We first met him during a wrongful conviction summit, and we've been watching him as with this case. And so I'm so happy and honored for him to join us tonight. So welcome to Turning a Moment to a Movement, Attorney Brian Brown. Hello.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Greetings, Attorney Brown. How are you? Introduce yourself and let everyone, just in case someone doesn't know who you are.
Hello, my name is Attorney Brian Brown. Hello, everybody. I'm pleased to be here. Thank you for the invite, and I just hopefully to be able to contribute substantially to this conversation.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So last week we started this conversation with freedom denied, and we talked about wrongful convictions in regards to the Beasy brothers. And that we also, I saw this clip and I want to play it because it was a little bit triggering for me because I had to sit in the same court with the same judge. But also, I think it's alarming as well. So let's play this clip.
It's my duty, sir, to advise you of the right to seek appellate review of your conviction and sentence. If you're unable to afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you. They'll be given transcripts needed to prepare your motions or an appeal. If you wish to seek an appeal, you have to sign and date your appellate rights paperwork and mail it to the clerk of this court within 42 days of today's date. Your client's already initialed the form?
Yes, and
Okay, we will give him a photocopy to take with him.
And Judge, just for the record, you made a reference to my client lying on the stand. Like, that's unsubstantiated that he lied on the stand. That wasn't even alleged that Mr. Jackson Delano was lied on the stand, but this court made reference to lying on the stand. And just for the record, Judge, he successfully completed his last probation he was on in 2018. So he demonstrated to the court that he does have what it takes to be successful on community supervision. If you're going back from 2013 when he's 19 years old, I mean, this is 11 years ago at his last probation that he didn't successfully complete it. 2018 was his most recent probation, and he successfully completed that probation, and they closed him out.
Sir, I've heard you out. He may have completed that one, but then he was out committing theft crimes the night of this event.
Okay, but Judge,
admittedly.
Okay, but Judge,
and he's never going to face charges on that.
Okay, so that's uncharged conduct, and Judge, if they wanted to charge him on that, they could have charged him on that. But in this building, Judge, we got to be honest with ourselves. How many individuals get sentenced to prison for lying to the police, especially if they're not being charged with any type of larceny? That just doesn't happen.
How many of those people are habitual fourth offenders? I'm done. That is my sentence. You can take it to the Court of Appeals.
Oh, well.
Wow.
First of all, I'm sorry. I just need to jump in and say, sir, kudos to you. See, that's why, even though I want to go to law school and I want to practice law, I believe that I would be in contempt of court a lot because I would probably be going off on the judge. And you said that you almost broke your pen in half, but you just threw it a little bit. I mean, you were so poised in your presentation. I don't know that I could handle that. I mean, how was that for you?
It was definitely frustrating. Sometimes we have to be professional, but sometimes it gets to you, and it's a personal aspect at times, especially when you see things that and you feel in your heart are not correct, they're not just. Like I stated in the clip, I've been working in Frank Murphy Third Circuit Court for years and years and years. I've never seen in the course of my career, nor have I ever heard somebody being sentenced to prison just for lying to the police and denying it. I mean, for one, it's one thing to lie to the police saying that, oh, you know, I got carjacked and I'm doing an insurance scam or something like that. And you sending the police on a wild goose chase to find somebody who carjacked you and they're spending all these resources. It's another thing to be accused of a crime and just strictly denying it. Like, okay, I didn't do what you're accusing me of. So that's basically what he was convicted of, lying to the police as far as they accused him of going into cars, breaking into cars, and he denied it, and then he ultimately confessed to it. So that's what he was convicted of lying to the police. And I think it was just an unjust sentence as far as sending him to prison. But, you know, it happened. So I had to try to be poised for my client, you know, didn't want to, you know, lash out too much because it wouldn't have helped him at all. And it would just, you know, possibly hurt my future clients also because I would have probably been in contempt of court and in jail.
Attorney Brown, could I ask you what's happening with the case now in terms of the appeal?
I'm not representing him on the appeal. He has a appointed appellate attorney, so I can't really speak exactly on the logistics. Last I knew, after sentencing, the prosecutor indicated that they were going to take this all the way up to the United States Supreme Court because they didn't agree with the opinion as far as where it is in the legal process, I'm not 100% sure, so I couldn't really speak on that.
Okay.
So you said the prosecutor
Could
wants
I
to
say a
take it to
couple
the
things
Supreme
about
Court?
Yes, because I filed a motion to
right?
dismiss the case on
And the
double
judge.
jeopardy, and it was a United States Supreme Court case. The prosecutor had to concede that it had no choice. They said, yes, Judge, the defense motion is valid. We cannot proceed on retrying him on the felony murder. However, we think that the case was decided wrong, so we intend to appeal this all the way up to the Supreme Court. And then Judge Van Houten also stated, like, yes, I have to follow the law. I must dismiss the case. I too think that the case was decided incorrectly. She gave her personal opinion on it. So the prosecutor indicated that they would go all the way up to the Supreme Court, which the United States Supreme Court would have to reverse itself. And it's a relatively recent opinion. It's a 2009 opinion. So we're not talking about some 1851 opinion or some very archaic opinion. It's a relatively recent opinion when they basically said that they couldn't retry on double jeopardy. In this case, fit all the facts.
Go ahead, Diane.
Oh, I wanted to raise the connection here with what's happening with people like Dana Nessel, who was in league with the prosecution of Michael Jackson Bolanos in the Democratic Party. And this is unfortunate because it's possibly the case we wouldn't have had Trump in office if the Democratic Party had acknowledged the tremendous the massacre that's going on, the genocide that's going on in Gaza, by at least allowing a Palestinian speaker on the stage at the Democratic Convention. They wouldn't do that. And that lost a lot of votes to Harris. It lost Harris a lot of votes. Understandably so. That's one of the worst genocides that I can remember. And Dana Nessel is very much a Zionist. So is, and the fact that the woman that was killed, she was the synagogue president. She was Jewish too. And there's a very rabid Zionist lobby in the United States and across the Democratic Party with the American Israel PAC. They bought so many politicians, but the Zionism comes in. They keep talking about that it's anti-Semite, anti-Semitic. Dana Nessel has also charged pro-Palestinian protesters at the University of Michigan with criminally for their actions. And it's clear to me, it looks like Dana Nessel, Kim Worthy here in Detroit in Wayne County, and others that are campaigning on behalf of Israel, essentially, are ones to a large degree behind Michael Jackson Bolanos' conviction. They seem to have had some reason to pin the murder on Michael and not to acknowledge the fact that there was a confession from Samantha Wool's ex-boyfriend, all of that. I mean, that was addressed during the trial excellently. Attorney Brown, maybe you could talk some about that because you were just stunning during your delivery of his defense during the trial. And I just can't see how it ended up with them still sentencing him to prison. The prosecution had only asked for 18 months on that charge. So, and she gives him 18 months to 15 years.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. The Michigan Department of Corrections recommended probation.
Right. Okay.
Me personally, I've never seen in my career, once again, I've never seen a judge go over the recommendation from the Michigan Department of Corrections. Frequently, you can convince the judge to go under. So hypothetically, if the Michigan Department of Corrections is recommending a jail term or a prison term, you can sometimes convince the judge that this individual is right for probation and should be sentenced to probation instead of going to the Michigan Department of Corrections. But in this particular case, the Michigan Department of Corrections, who's in a very excellent position to determine the nature of the crime, Mr. Jackson Bolano's previous history, the state of the population in the Michigan Department of Corrections as far as what capacity they're operating at, what facilities they have. And when they make a recommendation, they contemplate all of those different factors. And at the conclusion of calculating those factors, they made a recommendation. The judge felt she needed to send her to prison. I believe that, it was some outside pressure. She may have personally felt a particular way. Like I stated earlier, I've never seen somebody get sentenced to prison for lying to the police. And on top of that, if there's a recommendation for probation for the crime that they were just convicted of. I think some people, I don't know if the judge, but definitely there's some people in this world who may have felt that Mr. Jackson Bolanos needed to go to prison. He's guilty, even though, in my opinion, the evidence is overwhelming. And I believe that the prosecutor, had they took an honest look at the evidence prior to charging Mr. Jackson Bolanos, they would not have charged him. They would have charged the boyfriend. I'm not sure if there was some political pressure. I believe the boyfriend is somewhat connected. I mean, I guess, I hate to say this, but he's quote unquote maybe not a nobody like Mr. Jackson Bolanos, even though Mr. Jackson Bolanos is not a nobody. But as far as, people in this world may be concerned that Mr. Jackson Bolanos is just a nobody, just a average guy, black person, where the boyfriend, he's of a certain particular ethnic background. He has certain connections. Even at the trial, it came out that he talked to his parents like, hey, did you talk? The parents were like, we talked to the judge. What judge? I mean, at the end of the day, it's judges who sign warrants in order for charges to be even initiated. So I don't know what judge it was, who he talked to, but obviously they talked to somebody. They had some type of connections. He was never charged. He was never interrogated the way Mr. Jackson Bolanos was, as far as the detectives are degrading him, calling him names, and they treated the ex-boyfriend like, he just spilled his milk or something like that. He was a child or something. They treated him incredibly delicate. Like, oh, I know you're a nice guy. All he said is, hey, I want to talk to my parents and have them call a lawyer, and they didn't even interrogate him no more. He never even adequately invoked his right to counsel, which it has to be unambiguously. You can't say, oh, I think I might want to call my parents, or you got to say, hey, I want to talk to my lawyer. He didn't even know his lawyer's name at that time. So in essence, I think it was a lot of outside pressure, as far as from a lot of different organizations and individuals, to put the pressure on the judge, to put the pressure on the prosecutor, as far as charging Mr. Jackson Bolanos. But at the end of the day, I'm glad, all praise to the Most High, that he was not convicted, because that would have been a wrongful conviction, and I would have taken that personally had he been convicted.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was watching the video of the sister of the victim, and I was watching you cross-examining her, and when she first, I guess she was talking about this guy, the boyfriend. She said he was a stalker,
Yes.
And it seemed like if he was a stalker and they had issues with him, he would be the number one victim. Number one candidate for this crime. But then, they have this black guy, and I'm just going to say what it is. He's, to everybody else, a throwaway guy. And at the climate of the time when this is going on, it's a lot of, stuff going on in the Jewish community. It's political, right? It's all the protests and everything is going on. And so they had to make an example out of somebody. I think I'm just going to say Detroit police probably screwed it up, and they could not put it on this man because whatever they did wrong. And so he was the scapegoat. Michael Jackson Bolaños was the scapegoat. And that's what they did. And to give him 15 years is a travesty. You know,
Yes.
the young man who killed his cousin and he lied, right? This was like a couple of years ago, and they gave him a couple of years in prison. And then when he came out, they recharged him for the murder or whatever. He lied to police, right? But to give somebody to 15 years for a crime that didn't even happen, that you didn't even investigate, and I do have my Detroit lawyer speaking on that, and I'll play it later for you guys. It's wrong. This lady loves to give somebody 15 years on the tail. She gave my son innocent, wasn't even in the vicinity, had millions of character letters about his character, about his illness. And
That's
she
right.
said in court, all these letters and everything I have read about you describes a totally different person. However, since the jury found you guilty, I'm sentencing you to 2 to 15 years for unarmed robbery. Like, was you reading the letters? And even when I talked to the people that you talk to before you go to prison, you know, they interview everybody. They didn't recommend it. The lady said, I have talked to criminals for over 20 years and just talking, you know, I interviewed your son and I could tell that he didn't do this crime. But she didn't care about that. Hell, she was halfway asleep and late and everything coming to court. But she can, you know, this is and I hate to be on the bandwagon about this lady, but this is the reason why we need to educate ourselves about judges. This is the reason why we have to do more about, you know, who we're voting for and just not vote for, because it was my son, it's this young man, and it's a whole bunch of other people who are wrongly charged, wrongly sentenced, wrongly convicted because of judges like this lady.
Yeah. And when is her time up? When is her time up?
I think at the next election, she's running again. At the next election cycle, she'll be up. And you're absolutely right. People do need to educate
Yeah, because we
themselves
need to really, yeah.
on judges. And another thing,
Go
I
ahead,
believe,
attorney.
I think another thing that's important that I see a lot from my perspective is we need to sit on juries. I've had so many cases where you'll have, you know, people who look like me, who looks like my client. The jury pool comes in, and you know, people who look like my client will make up every excuse in the world to get excluded from jury duty. They'll say, hey, I gotta go pick up my mother, I gotta go feed my goldfish, I gotta work, I can't. So many different excuses. And when they figure out that doesn't work because the judge doesn't exclude them for working, she'll say, or he or she, the judge would say, hey, everybody has to work. Everybody up here has a job. That is not good cause to be excluded. And then they'll make up something and say, oh, yeah, my cousin was arrested, 10 years ago. He wasn't treated fairly, so I couldn't be unbiased to the prosecutor. And then they get kicked off for cause. So at the end of the day, if they were, or if I was, or if anybody is on trial for whatever crime, they want to be judged by a jury of their peers. Somebody who looks like them, somebody who has similar background experiences, somebody who can relate, somebody who's just not going to judge them just on the superficial, how they look, how they wear their hair, tattoo they may have, and like, oh, that person looks like they committed a crime because only somebody who's violent would put a tattoo on their face or wear dreads or wear braids or whatever the case may be. They're being constantly watched by the jury and constantly judged. And if somebody can't relate to somebody, if never interacted with a person who looks like them, then they may judge a person incorrectly. Because once upon a time back in Recorder's Court, it was, if you were charged in the city of Detroit, you went to Recorder's Court, which was the circuit court at the time, and only people in the city of Detroit was on the jury. Now it's Wayne County, so it's not just Detroit. You have Grosse Pointe, you have Plymouth, you have Livonia, you have a lot of different suburbs where the demographics are totally opposite from what they are in Detroit. So then when you get to picking a jury, you may have the vast majority of that pool who looking like somebody different than your client, and then the remaining people who do look like your client, they make a lot of efforts to get excluded. So I think that's important that we all need to fulfill our duty to try to at least take jury duty seriously, because at the end of the day, anybody can be charged for a crime they didn't commit. I mean, you can fit the profile, you can get pulled over like, oh, somebody who was driving a car similar to this, and you don't have an alibi, like, hey, where were you at 2 weeks ago at 5 o'clock? Like, I don't know where I was. And then like, oh, now you're being charged, and now you have to face a jury because they have circumstantial evidence. Because a lot of cases are not direct evidence. A lot of cases are not like where they have somebody on video where, oh, that's you. It clearly looks like you. We know it's you. Your mother picked you out. She said it was you, so we know for a fact it's you. A lot of times it's circumstances. Somebody who fit the description, somebody who was driving a similar car, and you was maybe in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's like with the Jackson Bolanos. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time in the wrong night, and he was charged. So.
I will.
Yeah, and you know what? The thing about it, when it comes to wrong place, it seems like it's more than that. We can be in the right place. It's just the wrong color. It's the wrong. It's the
driving while
wrong.
black.
It's the stereotype.
Existing
and
black.
Exactly. And so I want us to, there's no way to go around that anymore. I feel though, when it comes to the crime, when you talk about passionate crimes, that it seems like they completely overlooked and did not bring it up. When it comes to the way that the original crime where that was a stabbing, right? Am I correct? And the way it was, when I looked at it the first time, it was clearly had the characteristics of a passionate crime. It had all the characteristics of a passionate crime. And and then the psychological aspects of that would be poor emotional regulation, which I believe he had. The boyfriend, the ex-boyfriend, attachment trauma or some kind of other wound he was dealing with, some type of narcissistic behavior, ego or pride, dependence on the partner. If you are stalking your partner, then you have a dependence that cannot be broken without you psychologically losing it. And underlying mental health disorder. I'm not sure what, but he had something. And I just, it is just mind-boggling that could not come up, or that he was protected from not being on that stand.
The crime was particularly vicious. She was stabbed, I believe, if I'm not incorrect, 7 to 10 times, Attorney Brown, in the head.
8 times, yes, at various parts in her neck, the top of her head, the back of her neck. So it was very clear that this was the crime of passion. And I thought the same thing. When I first saw the discovery, it jumped out at me. It wasn't a secret that I had to go think about. It was very apparent from first glance. And then the more I looked at it, it was just more and more confirmation that whoever did this had some type of emotional attachment. This was a crime of passion. So not just some happenstance where somebody just stumbled in and attacked her repeatedly, and where they attacked her at. It was focused.
Yeah.
What was all over the place.
That's come up before that, in general, those kind of crimes are generally passionate. It has to be some sort of intimacy But this is where racism comes in again, because it is the general public's view that Black women want white women all the time. And so there's there's some unbridled passion that they're just underneath the surface. You know what I'm saying? That's old school thought that, when white women were killed in the South, that's why so many Black men died, because it was like we want to see everyone that had contact with this young lady, every Black man, because they want our women. I was just talking about a case, L Persons, who who um he said hello and whatever to a young girl, and then he became the prime suspect, overlooking her 25-year-old boyfriend. You know what I'm saying? So these cases happen all the time. I wanted to, and also I wanted to say, I am one of those people. I was one of those people. I recovered, who, like, I got a whole list of things how I got out of jury duty. But listen, hear me out. Listen, hear me out. My thing was, I didn't know. It felt like a dark box. I don't understand how it would impact. Like, I already got a lot going on, as far as like, I I am a single mom, thinking like, who's gonna get my child from school, blah 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 blah. Like, those are things that I'm thinking about. Who's, working school, and I don't know. It's what kind of support so maybe if there was something like, this is what to kind of expect, and I'll look into that. I'll do that myself. What to expect with jury duty, because
There's
it is a dark box, and all I have is, Matlock and Perry Mason. It looks like sometimes you get held up all night and have to stay at a hotel or whatever. I don't have that kind of situation where I have somewhere for my child to go. So I think about, that kind of thing. Now, in the last 10 years, though, I said I'm open to jury duty, but now I ain't got asked. I haven't been asked in 12 years now. So, but when I was younger, that was a big thing that I was always thinking about. Like, you know, um, they gonna have me jacked up there. I could get sucked into some case, and then I heard about these horrible cases. I don't want to see like maimed people on the screen for hours at a time. So that's what I was thinking about. So, just in full disclosure.
Yeah, I mean, that's understandable. And and that could happen. You call for jury duty. You don't know if it's going to be a civil case, which means it involves money, or a criminal case. And if it is a criminal case, it could be something as shoplifting all the way to murder. You just don't know what type of case it will be. And I mean, some people, may have philosophical, religious reasons where they don't feel like they want to sit in judgment of another individual. I mean, okay, I understand that. I mean, I can't get upset with somebody because of that. But we do need
No,
to
I
take it.
wasn't really thinking about that, because then they know why they're not doing it. Mine was more the unknown. Like, just I guess it would be kind of a fear. Like, I don't know what all that involves, because they just send you one slip with 3 lines on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Report
I can
release.
understand.
Yeah.
Because I know when I was young, during the OJ trial, the jurors were sequestered into a hotel or motel during the pendency of the case. They couldn't go home and stuff. That's very, very uncommon. I've never had a jury like that. That would have to be a super, super duper high profile case where you're just so concerned about any type of outside influence from the jury, where nowhere they'll be able to turn and ignore, the media, friends, cameras, so they were sequestered in that. You know, Most of the time, if it even is a high profile case like, the Jackson Blount's, I've had a couple of cases like that myself. The judge would just instruct the jury to say, okay, don't watch the news, don't read the paper, don't talk to anybody, and you just have to take, their word or trust them, the jury, that they're not going to go home and talk to their family about it or watch the news. But people are human, and there's no way of actually knowing. We can't subpoena their phone records or their internet records. Like, hey, judge, I think juror number 5 may have been, on CNN or on Google researching stuff. So I want to subpoena their internet search history. That'll never happen. So at the end of the day, you just have to trust that, they're doing the right thing, and that hopefully that you present your case strong enough and clearly enough for the jury to understand that the prosecutor has not met their burden, and the burden is theirs to prove, your client guilty, not the other way around. We don't have to prove our innocence. They have to prove our guilt.
Yeah, I think when it comes to that system, it needs to be revamped, right? They need to start paying people the right kind of wages. People are missing work. We can't just be like, oh, you can miss work. Like people are like, especially nowadays, you miss one day at work, you might be out of your house the next month, right? Like, so I feel like we need to take a real look at that. And I feel like, again, that is white supremacy and racism, right?
That's what it is.
Of course, they can make it off $7 an hour. Off $7 a day. It doesn't matter. So they need to really get real about that. And I think there needs to be an audit of the selection process, because I have been sitting and watching these jury selections. And so there was a trial. As a matter of fact, it was the Grady L trial in Washtenaw County. And there were only 3 Black folks that were even called in to even be. So while we're saying that it's because people aren't filling out the slip, do we really know that? Do we really know what's going on with these systems, right? And so for me, I just hope that we can do an audit of those systems. I also wanted to say, just in going back to the judge, right? This particular judge, her opinion, and all the judges, their opinion, they're not exercising and looking at the law. They're looking at their own opinions, right? And that, for me, it just baffles me how you want to convict this man from lying to the police. But we got a Brady list, 85 officers on it who cannot, right? Who were accused, not even accused, who were found lying on the stand and still testifying to this day. So they can lie, but we can't lie. Like this, it just doesn't make any sense at all. And it's, how do we stop these judges from abusing their power? Yes, we know we got the Judicial Tenure Committee, but we need to be stopping these judges at the gate, not even voting for them, making sure that we're running campaigns. I don't want to say against them, but educating the community that these are violators of the community. Because if we don't do these things, it's going to keep happening. These systems are going to keep perpetuating, especially with a case like this. Yeah, they're going to put pressure. I think about the VZ case. It was an election time. It was a triple homicide. A baby was involved. There was so much pressure to close it. They didn't care that they didn't have any evidence. They didn't care that the evidence was circumstantial, because it's so much pressure to close that case and get it done. Man, we got to take a look at this system and stop voting these same people in office that keep offending the community, because that's what it's boiling down to.
So she did say, you posed something to her, and she said, well, he's not going to go to jail for another crime, or whatever she said. Like, how do you, if the jury found him not guilty, how do you let that come out of your mouth, that he's not going to go to jail for, whatever that your opinion think that he should go to jail for? So she already know that she was violating the whole thing, but she didn't care. Just with her saying that one little thing is a violation. She gave her own little opinion. Well, he's not going to jail for, for whatever the crime was.
For going in the cars, for stealing things in cars, though, for which he wasn't even charged for. So he wasn't even charged for it. The prosecutor had all the time in the world. If they wanted to charge him for larceny in a vehicle, they could have charged him in a vehicle for larceny in a vehicle. But she, somewhat sentenced him for uncharged, unconvicted conduct. He wasn't charged, nor was he convicted of that. And I believe somewhat she sentence him for some of the conduct he was acquitted for. She gave him, a sentence for his acquittal. He was acquitted of the murder. She may have taken the issue with that, and brought up the fact he was in the cars and stuff like that, and made that a justification, which I don't believe, it was justice in sentencing him. So
I want to play this video.
That judge's background. She comes out of Dearborn Heights. She was an official in Dearborn Heights on this consul and other capacities. That's at that time that she was there, that was strongly white community, white background, white political beliefs, if you can call them that, but basically that's what it comes down to. And so she's obviously, she was upset that the jury, which had more power than she did not convict him of the murder. And, that's just appalling that she would take that stance. I would hope that would get overturned in the Court of Appeals, because there's no way that somebody that should pass through the Court of Appeals or the state Supreme Court unaddressed. It needs to be overturned.
And not to mention, she's a Snyder She got that job because she was.
Oh, that was Snyder?
Snyder. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just blindly keep, voting for her, and she just keep coming back. I want to play this video from My Detroit Lawyer. It's a little long, but it gets to the point of what we're talking about right now. This is from her TikTok series about who the F charged Michael Bubliano. But I'll let you guys hear her.
Yo, what up though, Detroit? It is I, your lawyer. All right, so I know earlier I made this post and I was like, hey, I'm gonna go live, blah, blah, blah. All right, I considered that. And logistically, that doesn't make any sense for me for a few reasons. Number one, I don't really know live well enough. I think I've probably fucked around with it 1 or 2 times in my life for real. So I don't know if that saves or doesn't save, and I don't know how to post it. Logistically, too much to consider there. So for the sake of not burdening myself with all of that, I've decided not to do that and to do it as regular posts. And that way also, people can keep up with it. They can follow it easier. If they have questions, they can post questions. Hopefully, for those of you who are supporters of Michael Jackson Bolanos, you guys can repost it and share it and, garner the attention that this actually needs. So with that being said, also, sorry, before we begin, I decided to change the name because earlier I was like, I can't even remember what I just called it on the last post, but I was like, who the fuck is Michael Jackson Bolanos? I don't know what I called it, right? Not doing that. I'm going to call this, who the fuck decided to incarcerate Bolanos? Reason being because when I was thinking about it and I was like, who the fuck did I marry, blah, blah, blah. The who part, the who the fuck part, that was the fucked up person. So the who part here, who the fuck decided to incarcerate Bolanos? That's all the fucked up people. That's everything that's wrong with our fucking criminal justice system. And that's what I want to highlight in the who the fuck decided to incarcerate Bolanos. Boom. Welcome. Episode 1. If you guys hear that, though, that is my dogs. I don't know what the fuck is going on over there. Sneezing or something of the sort. They're fine. Yeah, they're fine. Okay, so let's get right into it. I'm going to start by giving you guys some background. So for anyone who doesn't know about this case, was not privy to it, Michael Jackson Bolanos was undoubtedly acquitted of the murder of Samantha Wall. His trial began in June of 2024. It was a 5-week trial. And for those of you who don't know who Samantha Wall is, Samantha Wall was the president of the downtown Isaac Agree Synagogue here in Detroit. So Michael Jackson Bolanos was acquitted of her murder. It was a 5-week trial, a very rigorous trial. During trial, he was facing 4 counts. One of those counts was first-degree murder with an attached second-degree murder, which he was acquitted of. There was 2 other counts, which we will come back to in a later episode. We won't touch on that now. And then count 4, which was lying to a peace officer. he was found guilty of that. The jury convicted him of lying to a peace officer. So that's kind of where we're going to start today's episode 1 at. So I'm going to be throwing a lot of information out here. So please, if there are any questions later on, or I'm not explaining something as thoroughly as I can because I'm trying to do it in this little 10-minute mark, leave me a comment or something like that so I can try to like get back to it or clear it up for you, because I want everything to be very clear. So, okay, let's go. So he should not have been found guilty of count 4, okay? This lying to a peace officer thing. And let me explain to you why. So when an individual is charged with a felony, there is a piece of paper that is called the information. The information lists all the counts that an individual is being charged with. Inside of the information, attached to those little counts, it'll tell you, like in a small little blurb, basically, it'll say what the state thinks that this person did to violate that law. So if it was, I'm just using a hypothetical here. If it was like, if it was CCW, if it was a CCW, they would say on such and such date, let's say on January 3rd, my Detroit lawyer was found with a pistol on her waist, and she is not a CPL holder, and therefore it's CCW, blah, blah, something to that effect, okay? So it'll spell it out so that I'll know what I did to be charged. Like, oh, that's what they're saying I did. They're saying I did that shit, so they're saying I broke the law, so they're saying they're charging me with this. It's called the information, okay? So in the case of Michael Jackson Bolanos, count 4, which is the lying to a peace officer, which is a high court misdemeanor. Keep that in mind. High court misdemeanor, okay? This is how it reads, verbatim from the information. After being informed by Patrick Lane / Stephen Ford of the Detroit Police Department that an officer was conducting a criminal investigation, did knowingly and willfully make a statement or statements to the officers that he knew was false or misleading regarding the following material fact or facts relating to the investigation that he committed larcenies or attempted larcenies from motor vehicles on October 21st, 2023. And the officer was conducting a criminal investigation for larceny from a motor vehicle. All right, keep that in mind. The most important part about what this all says is that the officer was conducting a criminal investigation for larceny from a motor vehicle. Now, why is that important to keep in mind? Well, the first reason why that's important to keep in mind is because that actually never happened. Never, ever, ever, ever was there a full-on investigation of larcenies from a motor vehicle. That never happened. And that is how they chose to word that. They said that he was guilty of lying to an officer about this entire investigation. There was never an investigation about larcenies from a motor vehicle. That never happened. We did 5 weeks of trial. There was never an officer who took the stand and said, yeah, I was in charge of investigating larcenies from a motor vehicle, blah, blah, blah. There was never a civilian witness who took the stand and said, oh yeah, that was my car that Halloween candy came from. That never happened ever. There was never an investigation that ever occurred that was about larcenies from a motor vehicle. As a matter of fact, Patrick Lane and Stephen Ford are homicide detectives. So that in and of itself tells you that when they were interrogating Michael Jackson Bolanos, they were never interrogating him about larcenies from motor vehicles because they're homicide detectives. The only thing that they're ever going to question anybody about is homicides. That's how that works. Okay, so with that being said, the entire investigation was about what? The investigation of the murder of Samantha Wall, right? Okay, well then the question is, so how could Michael Jackson Bolanos have lied to officers about the investigation that they were doing of larcenies into motor vehicles when the officers who interrogated him were homicide detectives and were only ever investigating the homicide of Samantha Wall and were never investigating a larceny from a motor vehicle? So if the thing you're saying that he lied about never actually happened, then how can he be guilty for that? That would be like me saying that you stole my unicorn from the circus, but I never actually had a unicorn at the circus. How could that have happened then? I mean, not an on-point analogy, right? I'm just shooting one off the top. But nonetheless, if you understand what's going on there, then you understand how that's not possible. That's not possible. There was not an investigation about larcenies, so he can't be guilty of lying or disassembling or disrupting an investigation about larcenies because there was never one to begin with. Crazy. But words have to make sense in the practice of law. Every word means something. So the fact that they wrote the information like that means something. And the fact that the jury was never presented with one scintilla of evidence to support that there was an investigation of larcenies from a motor vehicle, that also means something. So how did the jury end up finding him guilty? Well, let's talk about the jury verdict form. I'm trying to hurry because time is ticking. The jury verdict form, it simply said count 4, lying to a peace officer, guilty, not guilty. The jury wasn't even given the information that what they were being asked to find guilty or not guilty was not just lying to an officer. It was lying to an officer regarding an investigation of larcenies from motor vehicles. Without that information, the jury just went ahead and said guilty. That's not true though. That's not what the actual charge was. The charge was the investigation of larcenies from a motor vehicle. I think that if the jury was actually given all of that information, they quite probably, more than likely, would not have found him guilty of that because somebody would have been sitting there going, what investigation was there about larcenies from a motor vehicle? The only thing we've heard for the last 5 weeks was the investigation about the murder of Samantha Wall. So what are they talking about? What was the investigation about the larcenies from motor vehicles? I think at some point somebody on that jury would have asked that question, and therefore they would have come to the conclusion that they can't find him guilty of that because that never happened. So this is, in a very quick way, episode 1. I didn't even get all the information I wanted to get out of episode 1, but we're hitting our 10-minute mark, which means I'm talking too much, or I just need to explain things more clearly. I'm not really sure. You guys will let me know. Hopefully I did a good job. Stay tuned. Episode 2 coming soon of who the fuck decided to incarcerate Bolanos. Okay? Thanks.
Wow. Wow. So let me get this straight. He was sentenced for something that wasn't even a crime, that wasn't even brought up in court. Like, help me understand this.
Yeah. They were investigating a homicide. We presented that to the jury. Like, there was, it was a homicide investigation. This was not any type of, anything about a larceny from a vehicle. And I believe the jury just got confused, or just the fact that there was video of him admitting to, going into the vehicles there. So they might have said that he lied. I'm not sure what went through their mind. I'm not even trying to, get in the mind of the jury, but he should have been acquitted of all charges. In my opinion, he should have been acquitted of everything. And the only reason why they charged him for lying to the police, because they never charge people with lying to the police. The only reason they charge them is to muddy the waters, to make him seem like a liar to the juror. And like, okay, if he lied about this, he must be lying about killing her. He's denying killing her. So if he's a liar, he must be, a thief. He must be a murderer. He must be anything we accuse him of, because he's just a bad individual. So that's the only reason, in my opinion, that they even charged him with lying to the police. Like I stated, they never charged. First of all, they never charged anybody with lying to the police. And I've had multiple murder clients where people would say whatever, like, I was here, I was there, I was over there. And even if it's not true, or if it's true, or if it's not true, it's proven not to be true, they're not charged with that. They're never charged with lying to the police. So the prosecutor strategically did that, to paint Mr. Jackson Bolanos with a incorrect brush, a bad brush, to blemish his character. It's basically a character attack on him prior to trial for the jury. That's my opinion.
And you know what? I have an opinion. Because there are many times underworkings that we don't see, that we find out later, that happen with the prosecution. And I don't know I'm not sure, but for them not to even attempt to find the real person, why? Why
Low
is that
hanging fruit.
okay? And was there money involved? And did somebody get paid off? You know, look, I'm not
Yeah,
saying it's
and certain
good.
allegations
I'm saying
came
these
out after trial that kind of touch on what you're saying, that we kind of learned after the trial, some allegations about, prosecutor who was prosecuting this case, who's now a assistant U.S. attorney. So he doesn't work for the Wayne County anymore. Now he's a federal prosecutor after this case. And some connections that may have been met or spoken with to who the ex-boyfriend knew. So yeah, there were definitely, some allegations that I learned, after the trial. Had I known during the trial, they definitely would have been brought to light, but they were, something that, without having firsthand knowledge or knowing somebody who knows the individual, I wouldn't have known. But some things were disclosed to me afterwards.
Yeah. And you know what, the thing that I really am disgusted is the fact that there are no consequences. There's consequences for citizens. The consequences at the civic leadership positions, those people who we voted into office, they do not have consequence. There should be a consequence when you rule strictly subjectively according to how you feel. What's the consequence for that?
Right. And the consequences that we
And these
need
people,
to, I'm sorry.
oh, I'm just saying, these people go on, they live their lives, they get promoted, they take on other positions, and they're not affected, but they have horrifically altered people's lives, families' lives. I digress. Okay, go ahead, attorney.
Yeah, I agree. And we need to hold individuals accountable. We need to be active and educate individuals on, how this particular person, may have ruled in the past, and how it affected individuals, and how it may affect you next. I know sometimes we can remove ourselves from the system, saying that, oh, that's just somebody else. I'm not doing what they were accused of doing, so that'll never be me. I'm never going to be in front of this judge. So I don't really care, what she's doing. I'm living my life. I'm going 9 to 5. But it can affect you. It can affect somebody personally, and then it changes. So we need to get ahead of this thing before some of these individuals get so comfortable with their rulings that they feel that they can't be knocked down. Because a lot of times we just vote for the incumbent. So when we see the judge's name on the ballot, and they're incumbent, we're like, okay, they've been voted here before. Obviously, they must be doing an okay job. I'm just going to bring them back because I haven't heard anything bad about them. So they must be doing something wrong. But at the end of the day, I think everybody must be held account. I mean, it may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but I'm a firm believer, that, justice will prevail, one way or another. So it may seem on the surface that individuals are getting away with certain activities, and, they're not being held to account of what they have done in the past. But sooner or later, they will everybody has to be held, account. And it may not be a public spectacle. Sometimes it may be a situation where the person's caught up in a scandal, they are removed from the bench, they're disbarred, or they're removed from office, or whatever it may be. Or it may be just be something personal that they have to deal with, with the creator of all things. So but at the end of the day, we definitely need to be vigilant and educate ourselves, educate individuals around us of the process, to take active roles, in any role we can, as far as if it's giving knowledge, sitting on juries, getting to the polls, on the local level, making sure that we are putting people into office or positions that actually have the public in mind, not just themselves, not just they're trying to advance their career or they're trying to use this as a stepping stone to get to the next plateau.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to say something here that I believe it's much broader than just dealing with this individual racist judge, which she is and will be, and is responsible for the false incarceration of a young Black man that didn't have any money. It's broader than that right now. There's a whole climate in this country right now that is racist. You've seen what's happening, and you have a president that is just totally ignoring the law. Whether he's going to be held accountable by the law, by those courts, remains to be seen. There needs to be a broad movement of the people, like there was during the civil rights movement, that, you know, people need to start realizing this is no joke, what we're going through right now in the Trump administration. This is a serious attempt to take over our country, to take over and to wipe out. You see what they're doing with all the DEI wipeouts. They're erasing the history, the Black history, the history of women, the history of people of color in this, like it didn't exist. This is nothing. This is very similar. It's identical to what Hitler did. And we need to start figuring out a way to defend ourselves, bring mass movement like the Black Panthers actually back.
So, I'm in agreement with you. I also just want to just make a note. Circle Courts. Yeah, we do. It does market to the civil rights movement. I agree, and we do. I would guess I would push back about it. Harkens back to Hitler, because we have to. That's not making note that Hitler got his ideas from the Jim Crow South. In Mein Kampf, he speaks to how happy he is and how remarkable of how they've managed to create an apartheid system in America. So, and there's plenty of books about that. And so, and when we call Hitler's genocide or Hitler's Holocaust the only or the worst, we, in some ways, we underscore or undervaluate the own American Holocaust on American soil for Black people who have had a long-term genocide, and the Native First Nations people who have long-term genocide in this soil, in this country, and didn't have anywhere to go. And also that comes into play because there's this idea of Black women or Black Panthers or whatever to solve and remembering that history, that those people did not survive. Today is the day that Martin Luther King was shot in his throat. Okay. So we need to remember that when we talk about we need white folk to do. We've already dying. We're already risking all the time. We need that's who has to be up front. And I don't know why I'm stuck in this silly little position, so I'll take my camera off. But but that's the thing. Like when we talk about ICE, the only non-immigrant person who has been detained in ICE detention center is a Black woman activist, 31 years old, in Louisiana. She had to pay her family had to pull up $7,500 to get her bond out last Friday. So we are at the bottom of a multi-tiered caste system. We can work and we can push and we can advocate, but we need our that we are at the difference between having a mass mobilization in Ann Arbor, where I live, that's at the sheriff's office with tea and cookies, and then you go outside for a little bit with your signs. It's not, yeah, that's how we do it around here. And then that's not the same. It'll be in Philadelphia. Okay. Our lives, we could be shot down So that's the difference. And so I just push back on that, as we don't have that same. I have helped with Crystal Clark. I don't know for sure if some of the conversations I've had and letters I've written have directly impacted my own family right now. Like the way that they come at Black women, the punishment, the punitive, the backlash, the retaliation is real. The only So you talked about the students that were pushed by Dana Nessel, U of M. That's around the corner from me. The only person that a staff person that spoke up. I mean, there's lots of people that spoke up. The only person that has been fired for speaking up is a single Black woman, the director of Office of Multicultural Initiatives. Just before Christmas, she was terminated because Mark Bernstein, who the Bernstein family made their money off of who? Black people. I remember being a little girl, the Bernstein Advantage. I used to sing the commercial, honey. And so they made their money off of us. And now he's in a position, the U of M Regents, and every 5 minutes he's doing something that's against Black people. We can't ask for Charles Heston level advocates and allies that we had in the 60s. This is 2025. We have to ask for more from our allyships. We have to ask from our allies. And this is not personal to you, Diane, because I do feel like your advocate. I do read your work and I do love you. But I just want you to know that that's where I'm coming from. Like, we want to bump this system, this carceral system. It ain't going to come from us. We're already up under the rock.
I totally understand what you're saying. I cover cases of hundreds of men and women in the MDOC, in the Michigan Department of Corrections, the majority of whom are Black. And that I know I've been horrified by the amount of scrutiny, the amount of falsehood, the fact that the police officers who have wrongfully convicted them, the judges who have wrongfully convicted them, the prosecutors who have wrongfully convicted them have never atoned for their crimes. They need to be in prison the same way that they sent people, that they destroyed people's lives, that they took the lives of these men and women for life, sent them away to life in prison.
Right. So that system, yeah, I'm in agreement. Yeah, that system though is not only.
Let her finish talking though.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Your moment. So just let her finish talking, so we can keep it. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I believe right now, I totally agree that white people need to be involved in the fight back. Okay, that has been the case in the past with the civil rights movement, but right now there's another whole opportunity with the Trump administration. People are coming out of the walls because of the fact of his attack on people of all races, in the working class, the federal employees, the people that he's been throwing out of work, the tariffs, the things that those are going to affect people of all colors, and mainly working class people. That's the kind of movement that does need to be built. I'm not calling for a movement of Black people only. Okay, that is something that obviously, but I think there is the opportunity to build that international, interracial movement again now, and it's happening. People, and we need to connect to it.
Well, I would like to interject and say that on tomorrow, I will be at home. I will not be protesting alongside everybody else. But I think we've got to get to a point where we understand that as a community, as a collective, as a whole, we've got to do something, right? Like, I'm not saying Black folks going to the front of the line, because I am not. Been there, done that. But I'm not going to sit down either, though, right? Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, y'all go do it. No, because see, that's how we wound up where we are, putting our trust in folks, and we not right alongside seeing what's going on, which can affect us as well. So I think what needs to happen is we've got to, learn how to let people fight the fights that they want to fight, but as it pertains to us and concerning us, we need to be present as well, you know. And I think, man, it's really unfortunate because it's a lot of trauma that has went on in this fight, especially with white academia activism. So I understand Leslie's trauma, especially down here in Washtenaw County where we're from. It is very, it's like that. We always push to the front. So, Miss Diane, you might be feeling the pressure of what we're feeling in this county, where folks undermine Black voices, undermine Black women, turn Black folks against each other in this movement. They use other Black folks, or I'll say the magicals, as buffers to silence other Black people. It's just a lot of stuff that's going on. But irregardless to all of that, we have to figure out how we move ahead, because when it comes to this criminal justice system, and I think it's Percy Glover yesterday that said that we got all these terms, mass incarceration, this. He said, no, it's not mass incarceration, it's minority mass incarceration or minority incarceration, right? And so with all of these systems that are affecting us, we do need to be front and center, figuring out what's going on and directing, right? Directing our Caucasian siblings on what those needs are. Our Caucasian siblings are not being incarcerated as the same race that we are, so that we have to be the ones to lend that voice and actually have folks to listen. Because again, we've been sounding the alarm before Project 2025 and all this stuff that we're going through, but we're here right now because people didn't listen. So we have to learn how to listen to each other, and we have to learn how to come alongside each other and fight this fight.
You know, to me, the whole fight goes to the very roots of this system in this country, in the United States, and actually other colonial powers across the world, whose roots are dripping in the blood of people of color all over the world. I was just watching videos today about Africa, about the genocides that have been committed by European colonialists all through Africa, the nations of Africa. They're horrifying. They're absolutely horrifying to realize. Over 100,000 people out of one tribe were wiped out by Germany when they were down colonizing Africa. This was just, and this is what's happening now. When you look at the people of Gaza, those are people of color as well. Those are people who are Arab and Palestinians. And they're also being targeted here in this country. You see what Trump is doing. He is deporting Palestinian activists for their activism. So there's a broad number. There's a broad, but the thing is, you have to, don't forget the roots of the system that we live in. That has to be targeted. The roots of the United States are on slavery. That's where the system was built on top of, in the horrors of slavery. And the roots, you know, and it's gone back to that. They're trying to wipe out every iota of people, of the struggle of people of color, of women, from our nation's history. And it's nothing more than what they're doing to people. And I mean, it's what they're doing to people in Gaza is just horrendous. I mean, that's mass slaughter. That's genocide. And like speakers here have said, that was country. It's been genocide against Native American people in this country. There's an all-out attack on women. All of that. So we can't lose sight of the fact that it's just not us individually here, or individual judges, things like that. Now, they're a symptom of the racist roots of the society. And you really need to have a plan to deal with roots, to get to rip them out.
I agree, Diane. We have to have a plan because If we don't have a plan, we're going to continue to see the atrocities that happen to Michael and other people that's wrongly convicted, because it is a continuing cycle. You know, when I was down there with my son, some attorneys that I met down there were saying, oh, everybody knows those officers lie. So, you know that everybody who down here, the judges, whatever, know the officers that lie, and attorneys will tell you that. Who knows? They know. But these guys still get to come in here and lie on the stand, or still get to come to, arrest people and do the same thing. The cycle continues and nobody's holding them accountable. And so, again, I go back to what you're saying about the plan. Right, Joyce, dealing with the roots. Go ahead, Reverend Tia.
Yeah, I just, you know what, this is a wonderful conversation, is much needed. And we've got to get back to what counts. And that's our community. We need to really ask ourselves, are you playing your part? We can't look for somebody else to have the answers for our community. We can't. I mean, that doesn't, it does not help us to go to the oppressor for healing. We have to really stop acting like the abused, what is it, the abused woman, but it's a syndrome, and acting as if the process, that whole process of violence, that we're gonna keep going back to it. So what happens with a person who is in an abusive relationship, and that's what this is. We have been in an abusive relationship for over 400 years, okay? And we are constantly going back to see if the person is going to love us, right? And why? Why? Let's know why. I think it's important for us to know the why, because if a woman has been, or a man has been in abusive, a lot of times it's the woman in an abusive, physically abusive and emotionally abusive relationship, they, what do? Yeah, thank you, Trisha. Stockholm syndrome. So what do? They keep going back. Why? Because you have the trigger that causes them to beat you, and then after that, there's I'm sorry, I'm sorry, and then there's a glimpse of it's not going to happen again. We're going to do better. So what happened? They gave us glimpses. We're going to let you have this holiday. We gave you this court, then we took that court away. We have this policy. We're going to write it. We're going to write the policy. We're going to, come on now, have been written without consequences. Mm-hmm. We're going to make it illegal. Yes, Trisha, so much symbolism. You got all these symbols of freedom, but not actual freedom. Because how can you have policy without consequence? Mm-hmm. They write the policy, but there's no consequence if it is not enacted. We have got to stop it. Stop seeking refuge and education and healing from the oppressor. They do not like you. Okay? Just stop it. And then play your part. Get in position. Do what you're supposed to do for your family. Do what you're supposed to do for the community. Give back to the community. Pour into your community. Love on somebody. And stop joining the oppressor in the same deranged mindset of biases toward your own people.
Mm-hmm.
I digress again.
That part right there. And you know, silence also is consent. And I think there's a portion of us that need to understand that because, like Leslie said, we are just so beaten down. We're, you know, some of us, we're just, you know, so we are pushed off in the corner and we resilient. So we're going to make it no matter what, whatever level we're on, right? As much as we possibly can. And sometimes that's to our demise because as a community, we go through certain things that we don't even push back about. You know, when it comes to criminal justice reform, if it affects us more than anybody else, then why aren't we front and center at these tables dictating what's going on with the criminal justice reform? So we can't have it both ways. We can't, you know what I'm saying? We got to show up, we got to be present, and we got to lead the way for the things that are affecting us. But unfortunately, no accusatory because our people, we have been pushed to the side, right? Politicians disengage a certain part of the community. And so we don't engage. And I said this at a meeting yesterday. We were at the Capitol. When we hit the community boots on the ground, trying to inspire and ignite, we're letting people know for your local politicians to engage you. You engage them. You see what I mean? We have got to be proactive. Well, I guess it's still reactive because we're so far behind. But what I'm saying is we've got to come to a point where we are taking proactive measures to organize together for some of these things that are going on right now.
Yeah. So, Attorney Brown, do you have anything that you like to say to leave us with in closing? I know this conversation, we can have a part 3 because it's just so much that, that's going on in our communities and, in this justice system. We talk about reform, but they only talk about it when it's trendy and when it's, and then when the next political cycle goes on and it's not trendy, we want to be tough on crime, then we ain't talking about it no more. They doing everything they can to, lock everybody up all of a sudden and everybody get a RICO, and all of this other crazy stuff that they're out here doing. But is there anything that you'd like to leave our community, our listeners, about how to course of action or what kind of action that we should be taking?
There were some great points that were made, and I have to agree that this starts at a community level. It starts at a family level, on a household level, where we got to stop looking outward for individuals to save us. How much was actually ever accomplished for our community through the voting block? I mean, we cannot vote ourselves out of oppression. We can't go to the oppressor and say, "Hey, can you be more generous to me? Can you stop being so oppressive to me?" That's not going to happen. We need to come together as a community, with community, a common unity. So we have to, put away a lot of our differences and come together on where we agree and start to build with that common denominator, in our, as far as our communities, as far as we need to have economic blocks like we had, during the civil rights. Like we had banks, we had our own sports leagues, we had everything because we couldn't participate in there. So we're always, not always, we're not always, but some of us think the grass is greener on the other side, that, their ice is colder over there, their doctors are better, their lawyers are better, their businesses are better over there, and we just don't understand that we can build our own selves up in our community and circle our own wagons. And once we do that, we have our own economic base, we have our own securities. We won't be able to be infiltrated by outsiders as easily, where they can just come and take advantage of us, throw us into their system, do whatever they want with us in their system, because we can start to have our own system where we have our own judges, we have our own police officers, we have our own, civic leaders in the community. And I think that's what we really need to have, versus, looking on the outside, hoping that one day, that they're going to change their ways and act better, because they're not. Because just like Diane said, that this country was founded on slavery. A bad tree does not bear good fruit. So the very roots are corrupted. So what do? You have to deroot. You have to pull it from the very roots and plant something different, plant something new. The system is not broken. The system is operating exactly how it was designed to operate. So it must be demolished and a new system must be revamped. We keep on trying to say we're going to fix the system. We're going to fix. No, the system has been operating this way for a century. We're not going to fix the system. Mm-hmm. The system will have to be destroyed and a new just system will have to be placed in its stead.
Yeah. Diane?
Exactly. Yeah, well, that's a wonderful summation by Attorney Brown. And it's more than a notion to figure out the plans to do that. But hopefully that'll be coming along in the coming weeks as we continue the battle. We'll develop our ideas and our programs. And but I think there is a movement going on now. You see people all over the country coming out against Trump. So hopefully that's going to make a difference. Others, what's needed are really going to change until, as Attorney Brown says, we got to get the roots of the system struck out and build something new. Yeah. So every time we turn around between the Democrats and the Republicans, they're both sides of the same coin. They're both bought and paid for by the ruling class, by the banks, corporations, by AIPAC, the American Israel Political Action Committee, which is Zionist. And being against Zionism does not being anti-Semitic. That's not the same thing. So that's all. We have to just have a perspective on it as we move forward.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate your comments, Attorney Brown. You were just wonderful in that in defense of Michael Jackson Bolanos.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yes. Thank you guys so much. This was a very great conversation, and I look forward to seeing you again, Attorney Brian Brown. You're always welcome to join us. And forever, you, Diane, you always look forward to you. And also, I just want to let everyone to know where to find Diane. And then Attorney Brown, you can let everyone know where to find you. But Diane is, you can find her at thevoiceofdetroit.net. You can donate to keep this online paper going and read all her articles. And she has a lot of stuff that's very important for our community. So you can go there. And Attorney Brown, where can they find you?
You can go to my website, attorneybrianbrown.com, and find me. I also have an Instagram. I'm not too active on Instagram, but if you want to contact me, you can definitely go to my website, attorneybrianbrown.com.
Yes. Yeah. So before we leave tonight, I want Trisha to talk about the Juneteenth celebration that we got going on. Hold on, Trisha, because we want to play the commercial for the Juneteenth celebration.
Ypsilanti, this is your man, Uncle Fred. Fred Hammond is in the building. Listen, I'm on the way. I'm coming. That's right. We on the way. Juneteenth weekend. We showing up. We're going to show on out. So come on out and hang out with your mans and them and many other people that's going to be there. And we just going to have an amazing time. Looking forward to coming back to the crib. That's right, because y'all were just up the road. I used to hang out in Ypsilanti, a little bit here and there. And, but listen, I look forward to seeing you all. Let's have a great time. Peace.
I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad.
Yeah, so we are definitely excited for this year's celebration. It's going to be June 21st, 22nd in Ypsilanti, 301 West Michigan Ave, in the parking lot. Is going to be fire, y'all. We have some amazing artists locally as well. And yes, Lady Sunshine is going to headline on Saturday. Fred Hammond, I can't even get it out. Fred Hammond is going to be our headliner on Sunday. So come on out. We still got vendor spaces available. We will still be honored to have sponsorships. But no matter what, it's going down. So be there, be square. Don't be left at home because you'll miss it. Although we might have a live stream because we understand there are folks that just can't come out. But we're going to have a good time. We don't want you all to miss out. We are going to have a kids corner as well. And it's going to be amazing. Our youth are actually going to take the stage again this year. So they'll be rocking the stage out from about 11 to 12:30. And then the kids corner will be open until 4 p.m. So we've got something for everyone. So why don't you come on and be there?
And then also in a couple of weeks from now.
Oh my goodness. I mean, this is I'm really grateful for this to be taking place. We are having a community conversation around the conditions of women's hair in the Valley and featuring the story of Crystal Clark and others. And this is a long overdue conversation. Crystal has been affected by toxic black mold. And as I was reading today and didn't really realize that this mold can actually cause poison. It can be poisoning someone from the inside out. And so we are here to sound the alarm alongside Project Community, which are some students that we have been working alongside. Last semester students did a wrongful conviction summit, but this semester's students actually are putting on this community conversation along with Michigan Coalition for Human Rights, Black Voters Matter, the Gerald Ford Leadership Forum, Turning a Moment into a Movement, of course, Survivor Speak and Project Community. So please come on out. We're going to have dinner. It's open to the public. We ask everybody to register for us. But there are other things that you can do as well if you can't come out. Please contact, what she be saying, Big Gretch, so that they can understand the severity and the need for Crystal to be released. One thing that I've seen today as it pertains to poisoning of, the black mold poison is that there's no way for any relief to come if you're still in that environment. So we were in front of the governor's team yesterday. Jay and Reverend Tia were with the governor's team a week or so ago. Giving information. So we just want to bombard them with as much information as we can so that we can get Crystal home so that she can begin to heal from this atrocity that has happened to her and continue to fight for the other women that are there suffering. So please come on out. And yeah, look at this. They try to say that it's in her head. You're right. It's in her head. All right. Right in her ear that's attached to her head because we all can see that mold. And so please come on out, write a letter, do what you can. The onus of freedom is on all our back. We can't turn a blind eye to what's going on to our siblings. And Crystal is one of our siblings that's incarcerated, and we need to stand tall for her and the other women.
Yeah, so we just asking everyone to join us April the 16th at 6 p.m. at U of M. What is that room number? The
room number is CCCB. It's 0464 460. The address is there. Oh, one thing I do want to know, we're starting at 6, but there is free parking after 6. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have dinner from 6 to 6:30. So folks can just park, come on in, grab something to eat, and a hard start at 6:30. And we have some amazing folks that are going to be on the panel. So
yeah. Oh yeah, please join us. And please join us for the Juneteenth celebration. And we'll see you next week on Turning a Moment into a Movement. Thank you, Attorney Brian Brown, and thank you, Diane. And yay. See you guys next week.
peace.
Light up, just a light up mine. I'm gonna let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine. Just a light up mine. Just a light up mine. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine. Oh Lord, just let it shine. This light of mine, this light of mine. Oh Lord, would you please just let it shine. Take the drama out of my life. Oh Lord, every night the pain ain't right. I wake up at night, I never sleep. 26, 10, and 7, that's just me. Every day I need a little seed. I need a little fresh air, man, I need to breathe. All I know is trauma, all I know is tickets. All I know is no visit. All I know is a mission to get straight up out of prison. Lord have mercy for it. Lord have mercy on my people. Preacher Mary Washington and all my real. Lord have mercy with my people. I pray to God, we really need you. When I was down bad, when things weren't going right, every time I prayed at night, I put my hands up in my face. I said, Lord have mercy, little light of mine. Lord God, please let it shine. It's the drama that I live in my life. I swear to God, I was a bad guy every night. 10 toes down, salute. Everybody suffering, everybody who trying to make a way. Everybody looking for the sky, everybody looking for that piece of pie. In a law library, I know what that feel like. Hoping that somebody get active and involved in your situation. Man, pop your collar and pray. Cause Lord have mercy on my soul. And they make bad guy father get out soon. And the rest of those brothers who be mobbing to child each morning. Oh man, I ain't going to this afternoon. Man, I'ma miss dinner today. I got a couple noodles. You know what that feel like? Yeah, you know what it is. And if you a victim of a wrongful conviction, suffered and served by Ken Worthy, then I know that you know what that pain feel like. And your mama know what that pain feel like. Your father know what that pain feel like. With that light, let that little shine. Let that light shine, a little light of mine. Bad guy, Doughboy Week, all these great people in this great world of ours. 10 toes down, salute. I appreciate you, bad guy. I appreciate you, Week. I appreciate the tech. I appreciate everybody in the studio. We gonna pop off that LV. Ooh-wee. Cause that's what they be liking to see. But I hope you hear the missing when you see me fresh. Salute.